Lights, camera, action. Let's dive in deep. Talking directors, actors, the secrets they keep. From behind the scenes to the silver screen. Hard-hitting questions, nothing in between. We're rated B, rated the podcast sensation. Unveiling truth, sparking conversations. Where every story gets its chance to shine. We're rated B, rated, let's rewind.
Enjoyed this conversation with Sarah Alexandra Marks, star of Escape. This is the story of a group of dancers in a foreign country forced to fight for their freedom from a sex trafficking operation. This movie is available on streaming in the UK right now. Well, thank you for being here. I'm here with Sarah Alexandra Marks, star of Escape. How are you?
Me. I'm very well. The sun has just come out as our meeting has started, so you must be lucky.
Yeah, it's we're starting to get rid of our summer finally. It's been a hot one. Okay, so this movie. By the way, I love this movie. This movie is like great. I want to say action movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, like, where was this filmed?
It was in the Canary Islands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we did a tiny bit of filming in the UK as well, actually, in the south. But the majority of it was the Canary Islands.
All right. Okay, and like, so this movie is it's very physical. It's very like in your face, which I enjoyed a lot. Which we can get into more of that with more questions. But like, how did you prepare for this kind of role?
I think you always need to be physically ready for anything like this, as any role can be demanding. And so I always have a good base level of being physically ready. And it's also just a mindset too. It's not just a mindset, but that adds to it. And if the fight choreography can be difficult and challenging, and you have to make sure you're safe as well as your scene partner being safe. But, you have to handle with care. And we were lucky we had really great fight choreographers. Glenn Salvage was one of them who I had one of my main fight scenes with, and he was just so brilliant. He made me feel at ease when we were doing our fight scene together and went through everything so slow. So we were able to achieve what we did in the movie.
Oh, yeah, nice. Because, I mean, that was one of the things that I did notice was like these scenes, if you look at it just from like a pure like optics level, it's like this large man fighting this, seemingly less strong woman. And these women are overpowering these men every time. And it never feels unbelievable at any moment.
Yeah, I feel like Howard come up with these ideas really quite well, because I think that is a concern, is that you don't want it to be unrealistic, because then it's just silly and the audience will just think, what? Oh, come on. But it was really the girls banding together which gave them that extra strength. And, in that particular scene that I have with Glenn, of course, he is going to overpower me, and he actually does in that scene. And there's, moments right before you think he may, finish me off. Lucy comes along, to save the day. And without her, without each other, I don't think we would survive. But it's us coming together as a collective that really helps us get through that together.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it was there like did you have a how do I ask this, like a favorite scene or like anything that you did in the movie?
God, there's so many moments that I enjoyed. Well, actually, I enjoyed the entire shoot. There was nothing that I didn't enjoy, if I'm honest with you, because Howard's just such a joy to work with. He makes movie making fun, you know, and he gives you freedom as an actor, and his positivity and his essence, it just exudes out of him that it's infectious, and it just feels like a dream job and a dream set when you're on the set with Howard. But so it's really hard to filter it down to one moment, but there is a moment that really does stand out to me in my mind, and it was when Carla and Lucy, they have a, you know, a quiet time where they come together and they talk about their past, and, you know, the reason why going forward they want to take certain actions. So when I was delivering that monologue to Lucy, I remember looking out this desert and this canyon, and it was so vast, and I just took in, you know, the scenery that I was given, and I pictured my mum just sat there right on top of this little sand dune just watching me, and I just looked there that entire time, you know, when I was thinking about what I was going to say, and when I was performing that monologue, I was looking between there and looking back at Sophie, the actress, and yeah, that stayed in my mind, that moment, and I think that's because I got to bring my mum into that moment with me.
That's amazing. Yeah, because that was you did bring up something that I did appreciate about this movie, that this movie has that early feel like kind of some of those Roger Corman New World Pictures, like Women in Cages movies, where like everybody's out for themselves and it's like the survivor wins. But in this movie, it's very, how do we get out?
Yeah, yeah. And that's actually really important for Carla, that Howard had written that in. It's she has to go back. She can't just leave for herself. She, in her mind, she has to go back and try and help the girls. And that's her past coming forward, you know, and guilt that she's carried with her for so many years with what happened to her sister. So I think that was really well thought out from Howard.
Which, yeah, this, I mean, this movie really, like your character especially, because you're a nurse in this movie, which, like, I think it does show the heart of the nurse. Where, because I mean, I'm a nurse myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I work in behavioral health. But like this movie, like it shows that for you to become a nurse, there has, like, a lot of times there is something that kind of happened or whatever. Like you decided, I need to take care of people.
Yeah,
Like, and you show that really well.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. It was, yeah, it was important to get that across. And I also think it was just embedded in Carla's character as well. You know, it was just a certain situation that brought that forth in her.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the okay, where am I going with this? The part that yeah, like the whole, like the fight scene aspect and all the physicalness, like it's all blended really really well, because you get those soft moments as well. So you get that, like that feminine energy, and that, like, that sort of that aggressive masculine in there too. And like I think it's on the, like, the director, but also you guys, or you really brought that out in this movie, that like it's about the character, it's about, you know, like where they've been and where they're going,
Yeah.
and it's more than surviving. Like there's a larger story here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to applaud Howard for that. You know, his storytelling and the way he lets the characters come forth and how they blend together. But I think it comes alive when that vulnerability comes over them and they really are thrown into the depths of despair. And within that, I think, hitting rock bottom, thinking life is over, is really where you dig deep and you find that strength. And, you have to turn it into a positive and, think about how can we survive? We need each other to come together to be able to get out and survive.
Definitely. Let's what we also saw you because we've done a few UK movies. Like we saw you in Punch, as well as I believe you were in one of the Winnie the Pooh,
No,
Blood and Honey.
I
No, wait.
wasn't. No.
Okay, then I got that mixed up. It was another one, but yeah, but yeah,
I
like
was in
Punch
Punch.
was yeah, that was definitely one of our favorites. Like we really enjoyed that movie as well.
Yeah, Andy's a great guy and a great director, and he come up with such a great story actually with Punch. So simple but so effective.
Yes,
Such a good
that
storyline.
that was the biggest takeaway of it. It comes off as the simple slasher, and there's this whole thing behind it that you never saw coming, and like I was just like, wow.
Yeah, yeah, he did really well with Punch. I'm not sure if he's coming up with a second one.
I mean, I
I've
would be
heard
interested in
talks
that.
about it.
But yeah, so with this movie, there is the whole element of like sex trafficking stuff like that. Um, I mean, was there a did you sense there was a hesitancy to like be physical and go deeper because of that and like pull away, or was it you need to go into this and you need to really show things so people can feel what it feels like if you're in this situation?
I think it's quite a mix, but really for me, when I'm about to shoot a scene, I always stay grounded and present, and I remind myself of my character and where she's at. And then I'll also touch base with what if I, Sarah, was in this situation? How would I feel? What would I do? And I go from that thought process back to my characters, and then back in the moment, exactly where I am. I look at my fellow castmates and the surroundings and the scenery, and I just stay really true to the moment, because I think being so present is when you can be real,
Mm-hmm.
rather than too much in my head with lines, or thinking too much about, well, maybe my character would do this or maybe my character would do that. It's very good to touch base on that ever so slightly, and then let it all go and just be in the moment. I think that's really where you can come alive.
I like that. This okay. What am I thinking here? Now, like with the guys and how they're these, supposed to be these traffickers and these and all that. Like they come off very, you know, very rough, very like like this is a job, but at the same time they're also like in it for the perks and stuff. Like I don't want to be graphic or anything, but like how did you see a difference in like when the cameras are going versus when they're not with them?
The guys who played the baddies are so far from their characters. It's unreal. So when the cameras stop, they're back to them sweet selves. We're all getting along like a family and having jokes and a laugh, and you know, coming together at night time and all eating together as a family. So they're so far away from who they were playing, and no one stayed in character in between takes, so no one was freaking me out and
Yeah.
scaring me, carrying on as their baddie roles, which was quite nice because I have experienced that before when being in a horror film, and one of the guys, he stayed in character the entire time, and it was very, very intense to be around. But each to their own, and but it was a lot. It was quite scary.
Yeah, I can imagine that with, especially with the subject matter and the tone, that you would need those moments where it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, of course. You have to be able to let go in between scenes. For me personally, otherwise, how can you enjoy it? It's the part of the process is that not just when the camera is rolling and when you're shooting the scenes, it's in between, when the crew are setting up the shots and the cast are talking to each other, and you're also, having banter with the crew. That's the fun of it, is you get to meet new people and create these bonds and friendships that you wouldn't normally make. So if you're too invested and you're not letting yourself tap out of your character, you don't get to experience that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the one of the other questions I had was there's a lot of scenes where, like women are being like taken against their will, and all of that. Like how and like you're really fighting back, and it feels very psychologically horrific. Um, how were those scenes handled, like going into the scene?
They're always handled with care, anything physical, any fight choreography. Um, it's always planned out very well and choreographed so precise that so no mistakes can happen and no one can get hurt. So, they're actually quite a breeze to shoot. And also everyone that you're in the scenes with, everyone is just so giving and so willing to help each other out and make the scene work.
Oh, definitely. Okay, so I just had to look it up real quick while you were mentioning. I had It wasn't Winnie the Pooh. It was The Killing Tree. That I think that was one of the
The Killing
first.
Tree, yes, the
Yeah,
Christmas movie.
yeah. I think that was one of the first Jagged Edge movies we watched. Was that, and I think we talked to Marcus after that.
Ah, okay, nice. So what did you think of the Killing Tree?
That was. We love horror comedy, but I think that was one of the ones that made me really appreciate it. Was just like the kills are really over the top, and he's literally walking around in a Christmas tree suit and like bumping into things and making it part of the scene, and it was like it was delightful. I liked it a lot.
Oh, I'm glad. Very glad.
uh so was there any level of kind of like improvisation in any of these scenes where like the fight is going on, where you're, because I noticed there's a lot of using the environment around you in the scene, because it everything feels involved, which I enjoyed that a lot. So was there any, like, like, why don't we do this, why don't we do that, to kind of tie everything in?
Howard's always open for suggestions, and but when it comes to the physical elements of the movie with the fight choreography, there's no improvisation there really because it has to be well thought out and planned. But there were quite a lot of improvised scenes, some for Sophie and I when we were on foot, but no real dialogue, but just a lot of running and just trying to escape, really. I remember one scene in particular, which was with the character Jude, with Louis James,
Yes.
and he had an entire scene that was completely improvised. And he did so well. I remember watching him thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not sure how I would cope in this situation. So he gave me a lot of inspiration watching this scene, thinking, yeah, wow, I would totally do this. But it was the scene where he sits down and he calls his sister and talks about his nephew.
Oh yeah,
And
I enjoyed that.
yeah, that was completely improvised. Howard had come up with the moment and what the moment would involve. And they sat down, and I was very lucky to be able to sit in and watch this scene and watch how Howard works also. And yeah, I just remember admiring Louis and how he could just sit there and roll off all this dialogue
Wow.
just in the moment. It was really impressive for me.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the characters that I thought kind of like drives the first half of the movie a lot, where because he's always he's kind of the person that draws people in to be taken, so he really
Yeah.
has to gain people's trust.
Yeah.
So like to see him get emotional and to see the hatred that sort of all the women have for him because there is a betrayal
Hmm.
there was really like that was a powerful moment.
Yeah, you can see in his eyes that it weighs heavy on his heart, his character. I think he did that justice. And, he gets the charm just right to pull the girls in. And then, but you can see in his eyes that something isn't quite right. He's just, I don't think he's fully into this as the other guys are. And that's why he just has this great arc that Howard had given him. He has that redemption and he becomes that Trojan horse.
Oh yeah, he kind of like this is it almost feels like this is his first time and he's they need an innocent because like people can feel like I don't want to say vibes necessarily but like the like intention in
Yeah,
people and when you've been I would imagine if you've been doing something like this for a while you become sort of like numb to the evil
yeah,
that you're doing.
yeah, yeah. And you just block it out, I'd imagine. But yeah, you just, he can't seem to do that, Jude. He just cannot let it go. And, it ends up costing him his life. But with him doing that, he saves lives.
Definitely, yeah, I mean so kind of moving into final questions. First of all, I don't know if you're a horror movie watcher, but we sometimes ask people like, are there any movies you could recommend to us that maybe we haven't seen?
Well, my favourite horror franchise is Scream. And I'm
But
pretty
definitely.
sure it's everyone has seen that. It's just such an epic franchise. Your typical teen slasher movies. But I watched a movie recently that not a lot of people have watched or heard of. I wouldn't say it's horror, but it has some horrific moments, and it's called Apocalypto, directed by
Oh,
Melvin Gibson.
yeah.
And I think it's such an epic movie. The violence in it was a lot for me to take, and I did have to close my eyes at some points because my heart couldn't handle it. Because, he'd done so well, Mel Gibson. I was so invested in the tribe and the family and the bond that they had that I just did not want to see any of them go through the pain. But
Oh yeah.
it's actually that's such an epic story, and that love between the lead guy and his wife who's pregnant, stuck in that well. Oh, it's just so good. I think everyone should watch that at least once.
Awesome. Also, uh, I think I mentioned this before we started talking. Is there anything you're working on that you can talk about?
I have River of Blood, an action adventure coming out hopefully next year, which is also by Howard J. Ford. I have a horror film called The Manor of Darkness coming out next year, directed by Blake Ridder, produced by Lucas A. Ferrara and Louis James, who plays Jude in Escape. And I'm moving on to producing side of things for my next two horror films, one called The Feed and one called The Hag. but I'll also be starring in those, but I'll be working on them from the ground up, co-producing, which I'm pretty excited about.
That's awesome. Those are definitely movies we'll keep an eye out for in the future for our podcast.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah, and we'd love to have you back on to talk about those when you have a few more experiences with that.
Oh, yeah, I'll be back in a flash.
Awesome. And if people are trying to find you on social media, where can they find you?
Instagram, Sarah A. Marks.
Awesome. Well, thank you for talking to me. I appreciate your time.
Of course, absolutely. Yes, thank you for having me.
Rated B, rated the podcast sensation.